All right. Welcome to this video. I'm going to be talking about the utilities of AI for a law student. Ultimately, this is going to be a part of a series, which are part of a project for my class that is offered at University of Houston Law Center called Large Language Models for Lawyers. So far, it's been a really interesting course. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So first, I need to figure out how to share my screen. And we're going to want to do this one, share. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is succeeding. Uh, Second, we're going to talk about a disclaimer. And so succeeding in law with AI, I think is that's clickbait. You're welcome. What I'm really getting at is there's ways you can make your life easier, but ultimately your success is going to come down to you being able to put in the work, learn the information for yourself. You're not going to have AI for your exams, at least I wouldn't imagine, or not in the near term. And if you do, it wouldn't be that useful, at least right now. I am very familiar with what AI can do. I'm also very familiar with law exams. I've finished my first year. And I don't think this would help you or get you a good grade in your finals. So there's no, key or shortcut cheat code, but there are ways to make your life easier. All right, so when you're in law school, you're going to have to check the syllabus, as you are probably already aware. And over the next couple of years, I think more and more professors are going to be making a shift away from AI bans, but as it currently stands, AI in about 30 to 50% of the classes are going to say no AI at all whatsoever. So I have one class that is use as much AI as you want. That's obviously the large language models course. I have another class where there is a no AI assistance in any capacity whatsoever ban on it in the syllabus. Then there's another class I have that says you can use it, just not for any assignment that is going to be for a grade. So as long as you're not using this to help put you out over somebody else, there's no problem. And yeah, and then you might, there's another ban sometimes against using generative AI, since that to me is more nuanced. It acknowledges that AI is pretty inescapable now. Our documents, like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, whatever, a lot of these Grammarly are using AI to give you recommendations, things like that. And so the difference there is those aren't exactly generative. They're not writing for you, they're just revising and editing, which you could argue is part of the writing process. All right. Pre-reading is the first application I really see for AI. I've been using it in this capacity for my healthcare compliance class. The syllabus policy, again, of course, I'm not exposing anything. I cannot use AI to help me on graded assignments. But for readings, I do really enjoy knowing what to expect from a long reading. A lot of times we will get statutes or manuals from a hospital, things like that. And it's really dry reading, and so you kind of, what am I looking for here? And as a lawyer, that's a good skill, and knowing what everything is in there. You can see the larger picture, see the patterns, and know what to look for when you actually do start the reading. So I think it's great for pre-reading. Sometimes I'll tell it, depending on the subject matter, whatever I'm about to read, I can tell it, make me a brief on this thing. And it'll give me, the plaintiffs, the defendants, things like that. And I'll go over that near the end of this video, how I've used it for my healthcare compliance class, because I think that'll be illuminating. The next thing, as I already kind of touched on, creating case briefs. I think as a 1L, this would be really helpful. I'm at a point now where I do a lot of book briefing. I don't really create briefs as much. I might use them to get a gist of what's happening, but they don't serve as much of a utility for me now as they used to. All right, creating outlines. So here, and I'll talk about what the RAG approach is later on, but RAG is essentially, oh, I'm going to butcher it, retrieval, augmented generation, something like that. Um, so, all right, so creating outlines in law school is very important. Now, I would not trust AI to create my outline as a 1L when I have so much writing on my grades for my first semester or second semester. And so what I would do though is if you are resourceful, you're going to be able to get your hands on outlines pretty easily. And then I think you can download, like Barbary has an outline for civil procedure. And then hypothetically, what I would do is take outlines from other students, if that's allowed per my professor's policies, people who have succeeded in that professor's class, and I would upload that with my query to the large language model like ChatGPT or Claude. And I would say, can you create me an outline that does, show me the overlap, emphasize the areas where this Barbary outline overlaps and this one overlaps, or trim the Barbary outline down to match the um, depth on certain subjects that this one has, or combine the two, something like that. And you can kind of cover all your bases, or you can forget the Barbary outline, you could get maybe multiple outlines of students that made A's and just say, hey, give me a summation of these two outlines, or combine these, but don't repeat information. Okay, so that way, whatever student one missed, you're going to get from student two, and vice versa. And then you're going to get the baby of that outline. So a little outline baby. That'd be interesting. And I'll do a video on that if there's interest in that. But that is something AI is very capable of doing. For example, I've already done this with one of my classes. And what I did is I uploaded an outline of a student who succeeded, and then I had a bunch of reading, and I said, pull the information from the outline that overlaps with my readings for this week. And to me, that was like getting a condensed version of what I actually need to succeed on the exam. All right, the last thing I would do here is, so testing your understanding. AI can be it can be pretty good at creating multiple choice questions or essay questions. And here, these examples are professors we have. Hester has a few questions that are multiple choice online. And so what I would do is, again, sort of with that RAG approach, and if I didn't explain it well enough earlier, RAG is essentially with your query uploading documents that are going to be helpful to the AI. It's almost like a filter, or you're giving it more emphasis. And so when it brings the information back, it gets its information, it comes back, it runs it through the documents you've given it for ideas, or sort of an example of what it should be looking for, what's important. So it's very helpful to give you a more specific or more relevant answer. You're giving it context. Okay, that's the best way to think about it. So what I would do is, that being said, I would upload maybe 4 or 5 of Professor Dow's exams, right? And then I could get to a point where I'm saying, now create me exams based off of that, now that you've seen this. And I think that would give you pretty good results. So for Hester, his would be multiple choice questions, and I would upload some, and maybe with it, I would upload, if there's a digital textbook, or if there's a number of cases, right? I would upload those as well as more context for things it can ask me questions about. And with that, I would upload the questions that I have from his bank and tell it, give me new questions. I think that would be an interesting use for it as well. And the last thing I would do for it is simulating a professor. So there's a professor at our school who someone took the time in 1999 to write out all the questions this professor likes to ask in class. And this professor has a reputation for being intimidating. I think he's a great professor, though, and didn't find him intimidating at all. All right, so I would upload that document with questions he likes to ask, and then I would tell it a case that I have to talk about in class tomorrow, or the case that I had to read. And so with it knowing what he's asked in the past and what he's asked on different cases, it might pick up that there's a high probability that he's going to ask about jurisdiction, or he's going to ask about this or that. And it can give me a list of, I think a better question would be, what are the 10 most likely questions I'm going to get asked and about this case, right? And even upload, a short version of that case in the RAG as well. And that'll give it more context for a better answer. So that's for someone who's really nervous about cold calls. Can't really relate, but I know that's a lot of people, and that's a very valid fear to have in law school. So I think that would be really helpful for someone like that. All right. So to wrap this video up, and um, there will be more coming in the future. And this is just my first video. This is kind of a test run. I'm not going in depth so much, as I just want to see if my technology is where it needs to be and where I can improve. Maybe the audio wasn't even recording this whole time. We'll find out. Be careful when you're using these. Never outsource your own education or critical thinking. As lawyers, that really is the strongest tool you have. I've seen where a lot of these large language models are, especially the Lexis one. Um, you cannot trust them for issue spotting. They might find a good issue, but it's actually not on point, or they might offer cases that are not on point. So you need to understand what is happening so you're not led astray by the AI when it hallucinates or makes mistakes. So never outsource your own education or critical thinking. I wouldn't even recommend this for someone in their first semester. I think you should figure out what works for you, how you need to think, learn the fundamentals before you start using this, and then you can use it more adeptly because you'll actually be more efficient already, and it'll inspire your use of the AI. So never outsource it, your own brain power, okay? All right, next. Yeah, the next video I'm doing is going to be applications for a lawyer. So I was more focused on a law student here, but next video will be for lawyers, which there's still a ton of overlap for law students whose workload resembles that of a lawyer, of course, because that is where we're going. And so I'll be showing how it can draft briefs, draft contracts, and I will use a couple of example scenarios that I have to do that and show you how it works and what's the most efficient way to do it. How do you reduce hallucinations? How do you reduce poor issue spotting and things like that? All right. And then the future videos down the line after that, I'm going to talk about attorney-client privilege. What are the current standards, guidelines? What are the courts expecting? How do you CYA, aka cover your ass, as an attorney if you're going to be using AI? What do you need to do to say with a straight face you have respected attorney-client privilege, you have upheld the rules, and you are ethical in your use of AI? So that's a very important thing to talk about. And after that, I will also be talking more about how to make AI more accurate. I think that warrants its own video, even though I will probably be touching on it in the next video a little bit too. All right, well, if any of that sounds interesting to you, like, subscribe. I do have to get 500 subscribers for this project. So that'd be a big help. But all right, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.